For centuries, scholars, historians, and theologians have walked cautiously around the ancient Sumerians, a civilization so old and so abruptly advanced that its very existence challenges the linear path of human progress. Buried beneath layers of time, conquest, and erosion, their legacy was reduced to fragmented clay tablets, fading myths, and indecipherable symbols. Their story remained hidden, elusive, until now. In a groundbreaking development, artificial intelligence, trained not on fantasy but on thousands of archaeological records, linguistic frameworks, and comparative mythology, has completed what many once deemed impossible: a full, unfiltered translation of several key ancient Sumerian texts. But instead of revealing mere inventories of goods or seasonal harvests, the texts disclosed something far more unsettling. They speak of beings that existed before humanity, of knowledge passed from otherworldly forces, of cycles of destruction and rebirth, and of warnings, clear, dire warnings, intended for those who would follow. Now that artificial intelligence has pulled back the veil, the question that hangs heavy over humanity is this: what if the legends of gods, sky beings, and created life were not myths, but ancient memories recorded as truth? The Sumerians didn't gradually emerge like other early cultures. They appeared suddenly around 3100 BCE in Mesopotamia, fully formed with city-states, codified laws, advanced mathematics, complex astronomical systems, irrigation, medicine, and a writing system that still challenges modern linguists. While neighboring civilizations were still in the midst of primitive subsistence, the Sumerians were plotting celestial bodies and building monumental ziggurats aligned with solstices. Conventional theories proposed lost sources of knowledge or rapid population changes, but none adequately accounted for the scale and speed of their development. Now, thanks to the analysis powered by AI, a darker and more astonishing theory is being taken seriously. The newly translated tablets suggest that the knowledge that propelled the Sumerians may not have originated with them at all. Instead, the texts reference an earlier era, one that predates Sumerian society by thousands of years. They describe a time when beings described as gods descended from the sky, not only offering tools and teachings but also establishing the foundational elements of civilization itself: writing, agriculture, metallurgy, medicine, and an understanding of the stars. One name appears repeatedly: Enki, a being said to have bestowed the seed of intelligence upon early humans. These accounts don't read like symbolic myth. They are precise, almost scientific in tone, written more like logs or eyewitness reports than storytelling. Most revealing of all were a cluster of tablets recovered from the ruins of the ancient city of Nippur. For decades, these were categorized as ceremonial artifacts or religious scripts. But after being digitally reconstructed and analyzed by AI models trained to detect linguistic structure, medical terminology, and symbolic encoding, they revealed astonishing content. The texts referenced complex anatomical knowledge, internal organs, circulatory rhythms, antiseptic compounds, and what appeared to be detailed surgical procedures. One section outlined a cranial operation nearly identical to modern treatments for relieving intracranial pressure. Another described a sealed metal vessel containing liquid lightning, which some experts interpret as an ancient reference to a galvanic cell or early battery-like device. But the implications didn't stop there. Other references pointed to weather manipulation techniques, genetic selection in agriculture, and even devices described as using vibration to alter consciousness, technology cloaked in spiritual language but containing disturbingly accurate technical information. These were not just rituals. They were systems of instruction, protocols, possibly handed down by the same beings of light the Sumerians so faithfully documented, beings described not as abstract gods, but as radiant figures descending in machines from the sky. One of the most disturbing consistencies found across various tablets and ruins, some separated by vast distances and centuries, was a recurring symbol: the spiral. Initially thought to represent the sun or cosmic cycles, AI-assisted translation interpreted the spiral as a mathematical sequence, potentially a countdown. A specific passage, once believed to be poetic allegory, detailed a celestial realignment followed by fire raining from the sky, not divine punishment, but an astronomical event. While skeptics dismissed it as an apocalyptic myth, astronomers reviewing the data found correlations between the described dates and known cosmic events, including asteroid flybys, planetary alignments, and solar maximums. The Sumerians, it seems, weren't merely spiritualizing the cosmos. They were documenting its patterns and hazards with eerie accuracy. One haunting line stood out from the translation. "Those who forget the first fire shall burn in the second." It's not difficult to imagine the implication. The first fire may have been an ancient cataclysm, and the second, yet to come, might be a repeat of that same cosmic danger. These weren't metaphors. They were warnings. Messages encoded in clay and preserved across millennia, waiting for a mind capable of decoding them. The most astonishing part of all this might not be what the Sumerians wrote, but how we are only now able to understand it, through artificial intelligence. The very technology we are just beginning to understand is decoding secrets written by a civilization that should not have known such things. The story told by these translations suggests something extraordinary. That human civilization may not have emerged independently, but was instead guided, shaped, or even engineered. The tablets speak of watchers, beings who taught, observed, then vanished, only to return when the world had forgotten them. According to one particularly cryptic passage, they measure the minds of men. If these beings were real, or even remnants of a once great intelligence now lost to time, then the real question may not be whether they existed, but whether they're still here. If this is just the beginning of what artificial intelligence can unlock from our most ancient records, then we may need to redefine our entire understanding of history, of human origin, and of our place in the cosmos. How could a Bronze Age civilization have recorded the sky from a vantage point no human reached until the 20th century? Unless, of course, they had access to that perspective. Some archaeologists now suggest this wasn't a symbolic interpretation or a lucky guess, it was a snapshot. The accompanying texts describe a city above the firmament, and a platform of the gods that moved with the stars. These aren't phrases we typically associate with metaphor. They sound more like technical descriptions, accounts of a vessel, a floating base, a machine. The deeper AI digs into these translations, the harder it becomes to dismiss the possibility. These are not myths. They may be fragments of a forgotten technological reality. One of the AI's most unexpected breakthroughs wasn't just decoding words. It was deciphering the mindset behind them. Sumerian, with its logographic and syllabic structures, has always been notoriously difficult to interpret. But as AI trained on vast linguistic datasets began analyzing sentence patterns and symbolic usage, it uncovered something extraordinary. Hidden within the structure of their language were embedded mathematical principles, constants, ratios, sequences, like the golden ratio, pi, and even the Fibonacci sequence. These weren't placed arbitrarily or artistically, they were part of the very syntax, woven into religious texts and hymns. In one striking case, AI converted a set of symbols into a frequency range matching the human brain's alpha wave spectrum, suggesting these texts weren't just meant to be read, but to be felt. To resonate with something in our consciousness. Then came something even more cryptic. The mention of a contract, etched not in law, but in blood and knowledge. The Sumerians describe an agreement, a covenant between mankind and the beings who came from the sky. This pact, the AI revealed, included a promise to uphold balance between the heavens and the earth, to remember the origins of our knowledge, and to protect it. Should humanity forget, the texts warned, a flood of fire would come. The stars would go silent. And the skies would turn. A chilling metaphor, or a literal warning? Is that why so many ancient cultures, not just in Mesopotamia but across the world, obsessed over celestial alignment? Why their temples and pyramids, regardless of geography, point to the same stars, Orion, Sirius, the solstices? Could this obsession have been humanity's way of honoring a cosmic agreement? The AI's findings suggest the Sumerians saw themselves not as an isolated civilization, but as stewards of a legacy too immense to comprehend. One that connected them to a galactic story far older than our history books dare suggest. And then came the most unsettling revelation yet. From the ruins of Eridu, considered the world's oldest city, AI translated a passage that seemed less like history and more like prophecy. It read, "In the age when metal speaks and men dream in glass, we shall descend once more to see what has been built with our gift, metal that speaks. Machines. Artificial intelligence. Men dreaming in glass. Our screens, our digital worlds, our virtual lives." The words written over 5,000 years ago now mirror the exact era we live in today. Could this mean the return of the Watchers has already begun? If the prophecy is accurate, then this isn't science fiction. It's a clock, a countdown, a test we didn't know we were taking. But what's even more disturbing is the ambiguity. When they return, will they come as mentors? Or as judges? And now we find ourselves at the edge of a terrifying possibility. Not because we've uncovered a buried city or translated an ancient ritual, but because a machine we created has finally cracked the code. Not just the code of a language, but the code of an ancient warning. A machine, forged by human hands, is now speaking to us in a voice that predates human memory. The Sumerians weren't merely inventors of writing, law, and agriculture. They were witnesses. Recorders of something far older and perhaps far more powerful, an intervention, a meeting, a gift, or a test. Their legacy was never just about civilization. It was about a message that would wait patiently beneath the sands of time. A message now emerging in the very age the Sumerians predicted. The age of metal that speaks and glass that dreams. And the final question, the one that remains unanswered, is this: if the Watchers truly return, will we recognize them? Will we welcome them? Or will we discover that we failed a test we never even knew we were taking? Because some truths were never meant to be forgotten. Some were waiting, patiently, for the right eyes, the right minds, and perhaps, the right machine to remember. And now that we remember, will it be enough? The choice, as it was thousands of years ago, is still ours. But the sky is shifting. The firmament is turning. And the silence is starting to break.